First, we need to create our project. Now, if you already have a project, you can skip this part. For me, I will go with third person, blueprint, target platform desktop, and scalable as quality preset. And for variant, I would like to have none. And let's call it interaction tutorial. PP tutorial, because I already have one for C++. Let's create a project. Okay, now that our project is created, first thing we need to do is create an interface blueprint. So let's go here, create a blueprint class and search for interface. Or you could just go here and blueprint interface. Let's call it BPI underscore interactables. Now we need to create some functions here. So the first function will be called on interaction range entered. And the second function will be on interaction range exited. The third function would be on interacted. It takes a parameter, the player we have, so third person character. This may be different for you, depends on what your class name is. Let's call this character. And the fourth is handle interaction. And the last one is called can be interacted. And it takes a output, returns an output, a boolean, can be interacted. Now let's create our interactable class. So let's go here, blueprints, interactables, and let's create a blueprint of type active. And let's call it bp underscore interactable interactables build. This will be the parent class that hold the common functions and variables for all of our interactable classes. For example, later on we will create a child blueprint for television, for example, or for a door. Great. Now, inside the interactables class, we need to add the interface we just created. So let's search for bpi underscore interactables. And now we can override these functions. But before we override them, we need to create some components here. First, we need a static mesh. And this will be the interactable mesh. And let's make it the root component. Now we need a sphere collision. And the sphere collision will be responsible to detect whenever the player is in range and is out of range. And let's give it a radius of 200. Next, we need a widget component to display the widget that will be shown to the player when he enters the interaction range. And let's call it interaction widget. And all of these two will be children of the interactable mesh. And the interactable mesh will be the root component. Great. Now, let's override the onBegin overlap and end overlap for the sphere. And for the other actor, let's cast to the third person character. And when he begins overlap, we want to call on interaction range entered. Make sure it's this call function and we call it. So if the player overlaps, we call this interaction range entered, and the same thing for this on end overlap, but we call on interaction range exited. Okay, and now what happens when we enter and exit? So when you enter, double click on it to override the function. When you enter, we want to set this widget to be visible. So set hidden in game false and propagate to children true. Now let's duplicate this. For exited, we want to hide it again. So new hidden is true. And by default, let's give it a value of hidden in game true. We want to be hidden in game by default. Great. Now let's go ahead and create our user interface. Let's create our widget class. We don't have that right now, so let's create it. So create a new blueprint. And inside of blueprints, let's create a new folder. Let's call it widgets. And let's call the widget wpp underscore interaction. Great. Inside this widget, we need a size box. We need a border. We need also a horizontal box, an image, and finally a text block. And let's change the fill screen to desired on screen. And the size box, let's override the minimum desired height to 50. Great. Now let's recall this image. Let's change the name and let's say it's button image. And the text block interaction text block, and let's make it a variable. Now for the border, let's change its appearance. Let's give it a brush color of black and maybe opacity 0.5, and change its draw as to border and sorry, rounded box, not border, rounded box, and change its outline. Let's make it a little bit rounded on the corners. So let's give it a fixed radius and corner radius 10, 10, 10, and 10 on all sides. And let's give it a width of 1 and the outline of white. So the outline width is 1. Okay, this looks good. Now for the button, let's make it horizontal and vertical alignment center, button image, and text block as well. And let's make it fill. And for the image, let's give a padding a little, maybe 2 to the left and 5 to the right. And for the text block, maybe 2 to the right, like this. And let's change the text of it to interact. And let's change the font to italic or light, whatever you like. And for the image, let's give it a default image for now, any default image. Let's change the size to 70 by 70 or 65 by 65. Great. Now our interaction widget is ready. Let's go here into our interactable space, click on the interaction widget component, and set the widget class under the user interface to be, oh, we already set it. If you don't have it, just set it. Okay, and draw at desired size true, and space is green. And this should be it for now. Great. Now, if you go into our scene and drag our interactable mesh, our interactable blueprint, go into interactable mesh and set any static mesh we have. Let's say this cube. Okay, and we start. If you go in it, we will see the interaction widget, as you can see. And if you go out of the range, it will be hidden. Now, for more demonstration, I will make this sphere hidden in game to be false, so we can see it in game. Now, if you go inside the sphere, the interaction widget is visible. If you go out of it, it's hidden again. We can manipulate the sphere radius by changing the size of it, like 100. Now, if we play, if we go in it, and if you go outside, and outside, and outside. Okay, great. Now this should be it for this tutorial. In the next tutorial, we will be implementing the character input. So whenever we interact with, whenever we press a button, something actually happens. Okay? Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and see you in the next part.